Hey everybody, welcome to Grimm's Forge Gaming. Today we are going to do episode number 2 of Own Your Battlegrounds. And I wanted to talk about just a couple real simple things that we discuss early in a person's training when they're working with me from a PvP standpoint. And we'll just kind of go from there. Before we get started, I'd like to say that we have started our Patreon channel, or our Patreon link will be in the descriptions below. If you'd like to support the channel or help us grow, that would be greatly appreciated. So check out our Patreon link in the descriptions. And if you have not hit the like or subscribe button, please do so. Hit the notifications. I release videos pretty regularly right now, and so thank you so much. Anyways, first thing that we want to talk about, and Icy and I, if you listen to our podcasts or you know me, we talk about this, refer to this regularly. It is called the maturation process, and the maturation process cannot be the maturation process is something that is different for everyone. It takes a different amount of time, and it cannot be avoided. And what we mean by the maturation process is this: when you start doing PvP and ESO, you are learning your class and your abilities and how best to perform in a PvP atmosphere. How do I balance my buffs? How do I balance my heals? How do I control the fight through CC, hard crowd control effects, or immobilizations and roots? And you're learning all this stuff about your class that you've picked and the play style that you like. And then on the flip side of the coin, you're learning how everybody else is playing their class and how they're trying to kill you. And then you're learning the comparison between the two classes and how your class that you've selected goes head to head against their class and their play style. And so you're learning all these things. You are adding items to your offensive and defensive playbook, okay? And so let's talk about in the gym industry, combat sports. If you'd seen my first episode, just as a quick reminder, I train professional athletes that have fought in the UFC, Bellator, bare knuckle boxing, and I travel around the U.S. I do gym owner workshops, fighter workshops, and I really enjoy working with gym owners and fighters and helping them establish multiple revenue streams and train to compete at a high level. There is a correlation between real-life combat and combat sports in the gym industry and what we see here in ESO and PvP. So definitely check out the first episode if you haven't seen that already. But anyways, in the gym industry, one of the things that we really recommend is that if somebody comes to me and they say, I want to compete in combat sports, we say, well, your amateur career is going to be very important because of this maturation process. You want to get all your oh no moments, or these where your adrenaline's flowing and you're hesitating and everything. We want to get that out during your amateur career. We want to learn how to cut weight properly during that time frame, the work-life balance with training, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned. They're learning about themselves, what they're capable of, or more importantly, what they're not capable of. There's a funny meme or joke that, the average male is 4,000% less effective in a combat situation than they think they'll be, and that is so very true. And what I've found is this: a lot of people are willing to fight, a lot of people are capable of fighting to whatever degree, but not a lot of people know how to fight. And so if we were to take a really tough kid off the street who knocks Tommy out at the bar, knocks Billy out at the bar, knocks Sally out at the bar, whatever, we take this kid and we put him in an environment where he is actually competing or training side by side with trained athletes. He finds out real quick that his offensive and defensive playbook is lacking. Like if you were to open his book, it says knock him out with the right hand. That's pretty much the extent of it. Be ultra aggressive, be loud, and knock him out with the right hand. Well, against trained athletes, none of that stuff really works, because a bare minimum thing that professional athletes, professional fighters train for is, I don't want to get caught with the right hand. Like, that's day one stuff to them. It becomes the equivalent of them just maintaining their heels or maintaining their buff. It is that far out of sight, out of mind, just part of it, right? And don't get caught with the right hand. And that's why when you see the highlights where the right hand lands and the guy gets knocked out, they are highlights. It's because it doesn't happen, and when it often enough, and when it does, it's spectacular. But these athletes in the gym have this maturation process, same maturation process that you have when you're doing ESO PvP. You get nervous, you're hesitating because now all of a sudden you're trying to figure out when to apply your buffs, when to apply your heals, when to apply your CCs. How do I put damage into this person? And oh no, they're putting damage into me. How do I turn the fight around? And when's it my turn? And sometimes the fight snowballs out of control. And in combat sports, the same thing happens. One punch leads to two leads to three. Next thing they know, the fight's over. And they will have prepped for 2 months, 3 months for that fight, and they find themselves on the mat looking up, and they didn't execute properly, or their offensive and defensive playbook was lacking. And so that's correlation between real life combat and the maturation process. Get those moments out early. And so if you're playing PvP and ESO, I just want you to know that you're not alone in this moment. You are more susceptible, you are more vulnerable right now as you're adding new tools to your kit. Okay? And it just happens that way. You could be willing to fight and want to fight, but you're just not there yet as far as offensive and defensive playbook and being able to quickly go from page to page and flip, from your back bar to your front bar and balance your buffs and turn fights around. And so we see that all the time. I thought that was a very interesting correlation that a lot of gamers needed to understand, the correlation between real combat and what I see in the gym and all the lessons they're learning and how vulnerable they feel, and especially when their ego gets checked or they are just really struggling. They had a lot of success prior to coming into the gym. They come into the gym and just get handed around. And that's really rough for them. And so if you feel like you're getting handed around in ESO and in PvP there, we'll have to review the way you're spending your time prepping for PvP, okay? And so one of those things, when we're talking about reviewing the way you're prepping for PvP in ESO, in our first episode we had talked about how to best utilize Battlegrounds, and I wholeheartedly believe in that. If you haven't listened to that episode, please do. But the next thing that I'd like to talk about is finding yourself a good dueling partner or a guild that it's an atmosphere that's conducive of learning, okay? And so if you're in this really rough patch in your ESO career where you're trying to get better at PvP but you don't feel like you're making strides, I'd definitely implement the things we talked about in episode 1 and utilizing Battlegrounds, but I'd also find a good dueling partner. What you're looking for in this dueling partner is somebody that doesn't have an ego, somebody that does not crush you, okay? If they're just crushing you and annihilating you, it's not the time, okay? And they might say iron sharpens iron, or this is how we do it, or this is how we get you better. Get away from them, okay? If they're just crushing you immediately, it's not about you. It's about them, all right? It's a character flaw with them. They're not a good coach, all right? And it's just as simple as that. They shouldn't need to flex on you. If they're clear cut, the better duelist than you, what you're looking for is somebody that will use the bend but don't break methodology or thought process. They burst on you but are not trying to kill you. They're trying to push you to the edge and put you in that moment where you have to turn the fight around, apply your buffs, apply your heals, survive the burst, and then come back into them. Turn the fight and go offensive and come back into them. That single-handedly is probably one of the most important things in getting better at PvP, is getting pushed to the brink, not falling off the side and turning the fight around and coming back. And if the perfect dueling partner is somebody that will push you there and allow you to fight back, and then push you there again and allow you to fight back, and then push you there again and allow you to fight back. When they push you to the edge of the cliff and then you can turn or flip the script or turn the fight around, survive the burst, recover from the burst, and then go offensive back at them, that is an extremely valuable tool. And in the gym industry, we call this 5th and 6th gear, and it's literally a superpower, okay? As a backstory or basic understanding of this, I'll have somebody come in off the street. They've had a high level of success in street fights. They think they're really tough, and we have a conversation about 5th and 6th gear, and they'll look me straight in the eyes and they'll say, "Oh man, when it comes time to go, I go." I can tell you this: if you do not train to hit 5th and 6th gear, don't assume it's going to be there when you need it. You don't know where that button's at. If you don't train to know where the button's at and how to hit the button and come back, don't assume that you have that superpower, all right? And so in the gym industry, it's really easy. And we talked about setting up a scenario in PvP and ESO, how a good dueling partner will push you there and allow you the opportunity to hit 5th and 6th gear, hit that button, recover from it, and come back into the fight, okay? That's the scenario that you're doing in PvP and ESO, honing 5th and 6th gear. In the gym, these guys will stand there and totally believe that they own 5th and 6th gear because of knocking out Bobby from the bar and Luke from the street and this person and that person. And they'll stand there and believe it and tell it to you. And I'll just say, look, you can lie to yourself and say that you own 5th and 6th gear and you know right where it's at. You could try and lie to me and tell me that you own 5th and 6th gear, but I have a drill that we could do. You can't lie to this drill. If you own 5th and 6th gear, this drill we're going to do in the gym will expose you, or it will show that you do know where 5th and 6th gear is. And so what we do is we have typically 3 or 4 man breaker drills, and they're drills that really push somebody to their physical edge, and they're not getting injured, but it pushes them to their physical edge and requires them to hit 5th and 6th gear and rise to the occasion. And the more times in the gym we expose somebody to 5th and 6th gear and give them an opportunity to hit it, the more likely they understand where the button's at and how to do it. That correlation actually is exactly what we do in PvP training with a proper dueling coach or a proper person that works with you. They want to burst on you, don't potentially kill you, allow you to come back. Now, what we're talking about both in the gym industry and PvP and ESO is called dancing, okay, or flowing. And I think that that's very important at the early stages of both combat sports and athlete, or somebody that is trying to get better at PvP. So if you're just getting nuked or you're standing outside of a town and just dueling anyone and everyone, I'm not saying you're not making strides and getting better at PvP. It's just a much harder road. But for 1 month's time, use the approach I'm talking about, the bend, don't break, and start dueling with people that are better than you and ask them to burst on you without killing you and allow you to fight back from it, and then ask them to burst on you again, which they're probably going to do anyways because of the burst window that happens. And what we're talking about, the burst window, is as their ultimate comes up and available and CCs line up and the resources are where they're at, they align everything to try and drop you. What we're hoping is that the dropping you is not actually killing you, it's just getting you right to the brink and giving you an opportunity to fight back. And so, but that dance and that scenario, the bend, don't break, is very important for beginners. And so if you haven't been exposed to that in PvP and ESO, I would definitely recommend finding somebody. So we have a Discord, and we have a lot of really good PvPers. Don't come in looking with a chip on your shoulder, looking to be the best duelist. We're not all duelists. We're just coaches, you know. We're good at PvP and we'll kill a bunch of people, you know, in the game. But if you come in with a chip on your shoulder or talking trash or teabagging, you're gone. Like, that's not an atmosphere that's conducive of learning, and we're not about that. So, just to let you guys know. So, in the gym industry, at some point, when we talked about iron sharpens iron, that becomes a thing. And as you get good at dancing, as you get good and you've really honed 5th and 6th gear, you know, when I get pushed, I can push back. And I have this 5th and 6th gear where in combat sports, that 5th and 6th gear, what they realize is as they access it more, there is a place you can go mentally and physically where you have unlimited resources. It's not that your physical strength is off the chart like Incredible Hulk, but you are no longer tired. You are no longer fatigued, and you don't quit when you're tired. You quit when you're done. And you were able to push a pace that they haven't perfected 5th and 6th gear. They haven't trained the way you do. And when you go there, you go to 5th and 6th gear, you just outwork them. You outpace them and you run them right out of the building. That happens in combat sports, and that can happen in PvP and ESO. You know, we call that stam checking somebody or making it a resource fight. Because in PvP and ESO, you can't kill some people outright. They're good. You know, they've done the dance, or they've done dueling for a long time, or they've done whatever. And those people you might not be able to kill outright, but if you make it a resource issue, maybe they have not honed 5th and 6th gear, and that's how you get them. And so same thing works in the cage and the ring. You know, if our guys and gals have perfected and honed 5th and 6th gear, they're on a different level physically. Their conditioning and everything is off the charts, and their technical know-how and technical expertise is on point. And then we turn around and they have access to 5th and 6th gear. That's a very dangerous athlete. So anyways, I thought that was a very interesting correlation. So just as a recap, we talk about the maturation process, okay? And there's no avoiding the maturation process, and it's different for everyone. And if you feel vulnerable right now, you feel like you're not learning right now, or you're just not progressing the way you want, you need to change it up. You know, join us on Discord. Let's set up some times. I got a buddy, Crocs, and a handful of other people that, you know, would like to get time with me and really hone their game and become very dangerous. And I really love that time. And so we'll start getting those times set up. But join our Discord and jump in the looking for PvP training section there, and just leave a comment if you're looking for training as well. It doesn't matter what console, if you're on console or PC, NA server, EU server, it doesn't matter, we can help you out. So, and then the other thing is honing 5th and 6th gear, and the bend but don't break methodology, and what you're looking for from a dueling or training partners to get better. So that's all I got today. Everybody be safe out there, and this was episode 2 of Own Your Battlegrounds. Thanks.